Hello and welcome. So today, what I'd like to do is go down my list of the top 5 strange and kind of wonderful, out of the ordinary fountain pen features. So once you take an interest in writing with a fountain pen, one of the first things you notice are all the different variables that go into it. There are so many different types of materials that make up a pen, and you can certainly obsess over whether you prefer wood, some type of resin or metal or whatever else. There's different trim levels and materials. There's different metals that make up the nib. There's different nib shapes, writing experiences, fill mechanisms. So much goes into these pens. And so I think in an effort to capture your imagination, the producers of these are always trying to come up with something new and something interesting. So every once in a while, some pens make it through with some truly extraordinary features. Our first pen is one that is or isn't just hiding in plain sight, and that is the Lamy Safari and its ergonomic grip. Now, we've all come to appreciate it one way or another, or at least accommodate it. In my case, I mean, certainly if I were to design the Lamy Safari, I would do it with a regular cylindrical grip. But it is there, I have adapted to it, and in a way I appreciate it. I mean, it's certainly good for getting you to put your hands in a proper form and teach you how to write correctly. However, everyone writes slightly differently, and in a sense I sort of resent having to put my fingers there. And in fact, I don't use the ergonomic grip. I gently cradle the pen from the sides as I write, and I just pretend it's not there. However, it is there. It's odd. You don't often see it. I've seen a similar ergonomic grip on some Jinhao pens, but it's not something you see in a lot of different pen brands. So it truly does stand out as slightly odd, slightly awkward. And if you hate the Lamy Safari, it's probably one of your biggest reasons why. And if you love it, sometimes you love it in spite of that feature. I personally adore this pen, but I do wish I had a 3D printer so I could make myself a cylindrical grip for it. That would be perfect. Our next pen is becoming one of my favorites, and this is the Conway Stewart Churchill Honey Noir lever-filled fountain pen. Now, this is an absolutely beautiful pen with an incredible gold Yovo nib, absolutely perfect styling, perfect fit and finish. It's just a fantastic pen. Yet, there is that lever fill mechanism, something you really don't see on pens very often for, I don't know, the last 50 or 60 years. However, I've always enjoyed lever fill pens, and it's very nostalgic, if you can be nostalgic for something that you're not old enough to appreciate. Setting that aside, I like the vintage feel, and I feel that the lever fill mechanism absolutely adds up to the consummate recreation of the feel of a retro and vintage pen. When I first saw it, I really felt like I was unboxing a new old stock vintage pen. It's that extraordinary. Now, a lot of people have issues with lever fills, and there are some issues with them. One is you better have a pretty solid standing bottle of ink that's not going to tip as you fiddle with the lever, because you can certainly tip over a bottle of ink, and that is not pleasant. The other thing is sometimes you don't get the biggest fill. Sometimes it can be a little messy. Sometimes you have to crank the lever a few times. I personally shut it once, wait a few seconds, and it generally fills to an acceptable amount. You can certainly do that a few times and get a little bit more in there, whatever you like. Now, the one thing about the Conway Stewart that's really important to mention is that you don't have to get it with the lever fill. You could certainly do cartridge. And there's other models that have piston fills cartridges, so you can always go that route. However, if you do get this one, it really gives you that vintage experience. Now, some people don't like lever fills because it has a little silicone sack in there that can wear out over time, but it's fairly easy to have that replaced from a pen repair shop. There are several out there. I haven't had to have a pen repaired in a while. I used to go to a place in Boston that no longer exists, so I need to find a new source myself. However, it's not too terribly expensive and it's fairly easy to do. So it's a wonderful pen, but it has that odd and interesting lever fill. Our next entry is one of my favorite pens, and there's actually quite a bit about this pen that's odd and amazing. But I think what really stands out on the Pilot E95S is its extraordinarily small pen body. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you post the pen and it becomes longer and it mitigates that. It does. But it's a really unique and interesting design. And I actually know a few people who simply write with the pen, not post it, because they have smaller hands and it suits them, which is pretty great. So I could probably bring up the Aqualine nib and how flexy and interesting it is, and it's certainly shaped in a very unique way and has a unique feel, but I think I'll save that for another video. It is that small, interesting, short pen body which necessitates a very small Con 40 piston converter, sadly, or you have to use cartridges with it. So it has a downside, but most things do when you get something different. And I have no trouble with this pen. I love carrying it with me. It's sleek, it's elegant, it's beautiful, it writes amazingly well, and it's a very portable, stylish, and incredible design. So this is definitely well earned for the Pilot E95S. It has a very odd feature, a sort of out of balance barrel to cap. But boy, when you put those together and you start writing, it is an extraordinary pen and a fantastic writing experience. My next choice is a pen that is so unique, so interesting, it's rather striking to look at, and even more striking to use. And I'm referring to the Benu Brown Orchid fountain pen. It's part of the Ambrosia collection. So there is so much unique about this, but the feature I really want to focus into is that incredible resin with so much color and reflection and depth that it looks like some kind of Peter Max poster from the 1960s. It's just absolutely gorgeous, shimmery, interesting, and writing with the pen is a super fun experience. It's that much more inspiring when you hold that in your hand. It just seems perfect for correspondence or writing a love letter like my video I did recently on that, or for writing poetry. It certainly inspires the muses, something a little deeper and more artistic from you while you write. And the shape itself is really amazing too. I mean, it's a rather fat in the middle, drastically tapering pen, but it becomes very nice as you write with it. And I love that circle of flowers around the cap. So I think it's well earned that the Benu Brown Orchid pen is listed as one having very odd, but very awesome and amazing and inspiring features. For my next choice, I could just submit the entire pen. It's really odd, interesting, and amazing. It's a new pen to me. My wife bought it for me for Christmas, and it is the Visconti Homo sapiens Bronze Age. An absolutely interesting pen that I'm still getting to know, and that's always a lot of fun. And I really am sort of spending a lot of time with this pen, trying not to think of any other one. So it's been pretty much this pen and me for the past couple weeks, and I'm really enjoying it. Well, I also like my Waterman 5, but that's a story for another day. So the Visconti is so interesting. There's so much to say. You have a lot of interesting and strange features. You have that power vac fill system that's made out of titanium, super easy to fill, gives it a really quick and really excellent fill level. That would be a good one to mention. Also that clip, that crescent shaped clip, which is really kind of fun, or the hook safe cap. Haven't seen that on anything else, and that's truly unique.
One
moment. I shut Siri down, so we should be alone now. So it has that incredible hook safe cap, which I haven't seen on another pen. It is truly original, and it would definitely stand out as a unique and interesting feature all on its own. And you could even make an argument for the shape of the nib and how it writes. However, it's hard not to go to the unique awesomeness that is the resin mixed with volcanic dust from Mount Etna in Sicily that comprises this pen. That is truly a unique and interesting feature. Many pens use different sorts of proprietary resins. I know some are mixed with cotton fibers, some of the celluloid stuff is organic. There's all different materials that go into these. Sometimes we're not told what they are. And I always feel like when you don't know what makes up your pen, it's easier to call it plastic. If you know there's some organic material, some cotton strands or something interesting, you start to get the idea that some research and development went into it, and you have a little bit of a deeper appreciation for it, I think. Well, you certainly have that with volcanic dust mixed with resin in a material that's supposed to be virtually unbreakable. However, I have no ambition to put that to the test, ever. But it is nice to know that if it should be casually dropped or whatnot, it should be able to survive that. But an absolutely amazing pen made out of stupendous materials that feels so warm and interesting in your hand. It has a little bit of texture. It's really fun to write with. It's just a brilliant, fun, interesting pen made out of an incredible substance. Our next entry for today is a pen that's probably the king of the pocket pens. What I'm referring to is the Cavaco Lillaput. This is a pen that I have with me all the time. It's fantastic for weekends. If you want to have a pen on you, but you're not planning on doing any journaling outside, but you might have to sign a receipt or something, so you can easily slip it into the coin pocket in your pants and have it always handy. It's that small. It's so small, in fact, that probably the biggest worry about this pen is that it's going to go through the washing machine. So you definitely want to check your pockets before it makes it there. So it's a fantastically small, portable, lightweight pen, but it's an absolutely brilliant writer. Cavaco nibs are some of my favorites. Had very good luck with them. I have about 10 of their pens. Haven't had a single issue with any of them. Of course, the brass Cavaco Sport is a personal favorite. This Lillaput pen is right up there with it. And its amazing diminutive size, although posted, it's a normal size pen, very comfortable to write with. But the fact that it is so small when it's closed puts it on our list for an odd and wonderful fountain pen. Our last pen for today that is a truly wonderful, beguiling, interesting, and kind of strange fountain pen is from one of the most famous makers of fountain pens, and it is the Montblanc Egyptomania. So much about this pen is strange and interesting, not the least of which is the fact that it's manufactured as if it were 100 years old. I guess in a sense it makes it similar to the approach of the Conway Stewart. However, it's of a diminutive size the way that fountain pens generally were in the teens and the 20s, and it has that really interesting feeling. Secondly, it has Egyptian embellishments. It says Mont Blanc on it in a hieroglyph. It has a scarab clip in brass that looks very antique and interesting. And of course, it also has a sacred scarab embossed on one of the most beautiful nibs I've ever seen, with one of the most interesting, soft, and expressive writing experiences in any of my fountain pens. I absolutely adore the nib on the Egyptomania. My only criticism is I wish it had a bit of line variation, considering the amazing amount of flex that nib has. But nevertheless, it's an absolute joy to write with, and it's an interesting pen. So there's that. There's piston fill. Well, I guess it's a piston fill, but it's small and feels vintage, and it makes it that much more interesting. However, the thing I want to single out is because it's the branding on the pen. It has this amazing large brass cap with the Mont Blanc glacier on top. And I think it's really interesting, and it shows a lot of confidence on this part of Mont Blanc that they're willing to riff off of their branding. So here they returned it to something like it was back in the 1920s and just gave it this really interesting, retro, amazing look. But they weren't afraid that it would be misconstrued as a different pen type because it doesn't have that characteristic white glacier star on the top of the pen. So I admire that. I think it's interesting. The entire pen is a unique, interesting experience. So for my pick, it's our #1 choice for oddly wonderful and outstanding fountain pens. I hope you enjoyed this list. Thank you very much for watching today. I appreciate it very much. If you've been watching the channel and you haven't subscribed, and I know about half of you don't, please do. It really helps a small channel like mine get noticed. We easily get lost in the shuffle of all the big channels around here, so I would appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to join the channel, you can go to the subscription button, and right next to it, it'll say join, and you can go behind the scenes. We're doing pen pals for our Cognoscenti and Illuminati members right now. And I also put up blooper reels, I do outtakes, I play a little guitar, I do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. I even read some of my journals. I think it's worth it just for that alone. So I'd love to see you on the other side of the curtain. Well, whatever you do, just know I'm posting new videos each Friday, so I promise we will see each other again very soon, further up the road. So take care of yourself.